Okay, when you close your eyes and picture a penguin, what do you see? I'm guessing it's probably snow, lots of ice, maybe a blizzard, right?
Yeah, almost certainly. And probably a huge bird, maybe huddled in a big group.
Exactly. We've really been conditioned to think penguins automatically mean Antarctica, the extremes of the South Pole.
And that stereotype, well, it's a powerful one. It gets
Hmm.
reinforced by amazing creatures like the emperor penguin. Their survival story is, frankly,
It
legendary.
really is.
But focusing only on the ice, it really limits how we see penguins, what a penguin species can actually be. And it hides
Yeah.
some truly fascinating animals out there.
Okay, let's definitely unpack this then, because our mission today is kind of to shatter that icy image completely. We're diving deep into the world of tropical penguins,
Hmm.
the species that thrive not in blizzards, but like along desert coasts and even right across the equator. It sounds kind of unbelievable.
It does, but it's true. We really need to get beyond that standard story. So the goal of this deep dive is to understand their incredible adaptations, the surprising geography they inhabit, and, crucially, the role of cold ocean currents for these South American penguins, and, yeah, their equatorial cousins, too.
Right. And just to set the baseline, to remind everyone how intense that Antarctic challenge is, let's take the emperor penguin again. They're the biggest species.
The largest, yeah.
And they deal with temperatures down to what, minus 60 degrees Celsius?
Minus 60 C, and that's before you factor in blizzards hitting 200 kilometers an hour. It's just extreme.
And the male's commitment? It's just
Right.
unbelievable.
It's astonishing. The male takes on the sole job of incubating that egg for 2 solid months.
Yeah,
And during that entire time, he fasts completely.
doesn't eat at all.
Not a thing. The chick hatches right in the middle of the Antarctic winter. It's this incredible feat of insulation, of endurance, and it has really defined in the popular imagination what a penguin is, the absolute limit.
But the reality, as you said, it's much broader. There are, what, 18 penguin species in total?
18 species, yeah. And many of them are adapted to much milder conditions, scattered right across the southern hemisphere.
So not just Antarctica.
Not at all. If you look globally, you've got species in New Zealand, Australia, and notably the African penguins. They're along the coasts of South Africa and Namibia.
Ah, right. Those are the ones people sometimes call.
The jackass penguins, yes. A slightly less glamorous name, but it's because of their very distinct donkey-like braying sound. It's quite something.
Okay, but today we're focusing on South America, right? The real travelers and the heat specialists. So let's start with the Magellanic penguin, the widespread traveler.
Good place to start. They're the most abundant species in South America, found mostly along the Atlantic coast, especially down near the Strait of Magellan, hence the name.
Makes sense.
And they're quite striking visually. You can recognize them pretty easily by those two distinct black bands that run across their chests. Very dapper looking.
Dapper penguins, I like it. And they nest differently too.
They do. They lay their 2 eggs, typically,
Yeah.
deep inside burrows they dig.
Mm-hmm.
And during the peak season, wow, they gather in these massive numbers for mating.
And when you say massive, I read about Magdalena Island off Chile. It's a natural monument.
That's right. Over 100,000 Magellanic penguins can nest there during the peak breeding season. Think about that.
That's huge.
That's almost 5% of the entire global population all crammed onto this one little island.
Wow. Okay, so they breed there, raise their chicks, and then...
And then, once those family duties are done, they start their great migration. And this is where the surprise really comes in for most people.
They travel north.
Way north. They travel thousands of kilometers sometimes, all the way up the coast, reaching the shores of Brazil.
Brazil. See, that's a country most people, myself included probably, just don't associate with penguins at all.
Exactly.
And that epic journey, that's what leads us to the story of Din Din, right? Which has become quite famous.
It's a really heartwarming story, yeah. It happened in this small coastal town near Rio de Janeiro. A local retiree named João, he was out fishing one day.
And he found a penguin.
He stumbled upon this young Magellanic penguin, clearly injured and just covered in oil, stranded.
Oh, poor thing.
So João took the little bird home. He patiently cleaned all the oil off, fed it sardines, nursed it back to health until it was strong enough to swim off again.
Which is usually where these rescue stories end, right? A nice deed done.
Usually. But the next year, this penguin, which João had named Din Din, came back.
No way.
Yes. Swam thousands of miles, apparently landed near Zhao's house again, waddled up to his backyard, and then returned every single year after that. It cemented this really incredible, seemingly unique bond.
That's amazing. Just, wow. A penguin friend returning every year.
The bond seems undeniable, absolutely. But the story also highlights something deeper, biologically speaking. Din wasn't just coming back for his friend Zhao, he was following the food.
Okay, hold on. A penguin traveling thousands of kilometers just for, like, better snacks. That sounds like a huge amount of effort, a massive energy cost. Is it really worth it?
It absolutely is, and it comes down to the geography, the ocean currents. The journey is necessary because the cold, nutrient-rich water they depend on and the huge schools of fish that live in it well, that supermarket only exists that far north during that time of year.
Ah, okay. So it's about where the currents meet.
Precisely. It's this convergence of two major ocean systems. You've got the cold, nutrient-rich Malvinas Current. Think of it like an icy underwater grocery delivery service flowing up the Argentinian coast.
Okay.
At the same time, the warm Brazil Current is flowing south. And where they meet, roughly around northern Argentina, Uruguay, and southern Brazil, that collision churns everything up.
Pushing the nutrients up.
Exactly. It pushes all those deep sea nutrients towards the surface. And that creates this incredibly productive fishing zone. So the penguins head north to feast, to refuel, before they head back south to Patagonia during the southern hemisphere summer to mate again. Got it. So the Magellanic penguins are kind of like cold water tourists in Brazil, benefiting from that seasonal buffet, but still needing Patagonia for breeding.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so now let's meet the real permanent residents of the warmer zones, the ones that don't just visit. I'm talking about the species that live year-round in these warmer regions, like the Humboldt penguin.
Yes, the Humboldt penguins. You find them along the coasts of Chile and Peru, and they are true masters of warm weather survival. Like the Magellanics, they also rely completely on a specific cold current, the Humboldt current.
Named after the penguin or the other way around?
Named after the explorer Alexander von Humboldt, actually. But the current is vital for the penguin. It travels north along the coast, keeping the water cold and absolutely packed with nutrients all year round.
So that consistent cold water is key.
It's everything. It acts like a biological air conditioner, essentially. It allows them to mate, raise their young, even go through their big annual molt where they replace all their feathers right there in these really sunny, often desert-like coastal areas. Right. Surviving that intense desert heat must require some pretty special tricks. Beyond just swimming in cold water, what have they evolved?
Well, one key strategy is simply stillness, combined with using their bodies to radiate heat. When the sun's really beating down, they'll spread their flippers out wide and stand incredibly still.
To radiate heat?
Exactly. It maximizes the surface area exposed to the air, helping them dump excess body heat. They often look almost frozen in time when they do this.
And they also have those bare patches of skin, right? The biological radiators.
Precisely. They have these patches of bare, featherless skin around their beaks, their cheeks, and near their eyes. These areas are designed specifically to shed heat.
How does that work?
When the penguin gets too hot, blood flow increases to those patches. The heat from the blood then radiates out through the exposed skin into the air. It's basically the penguin version of how an elephant uses its ears, or how a dog pants, a specialized cooling system.
That's clever, and they need it because of the environment they live in. It's just bizarre when you think about penguins.
It really is. Picture this. Humboldt penguins live along the coastal edges of the Atacama Desert.
Which is famous for being the driest place on Earth.
The driest non-polar desert, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking at one of the weirdest wildlife mismatches imaginable.
Literally penguins nesting in dry scrub, maybe with cacti nearby.
Yeah, cacti in the same shot, and they're sharing the beach with typical hot weather shorebirds like pelicans. It just completely messes with the standard geographic rules we all learned about where animals should live.
Absolutely wild. Okay, and that brings us to the most extreme example, right? The ultimate warm weather enigma.
The one that pushes the boundaries further than any other penguin species.
The Galapagos penguin. This is the last and the northernmost species we need to talk about. It's the only penguin whose entire population lives completely within the tropics.
That's already unique.
And here's the real kicker, the latitude twist. The north side of Fernandina Island, which is one of the main places they breed. It's actually north of the equator.
Which makes them the only wild penguin species that lives, even partially, in the northern hemisphere. It's incredible.
So presumably they're using the same toolkit as the Humboldt? Cold water, heat management tricks?
Pretty much, yeah. They rely on cold, upwelling currents, particularly the equatorial undercurrent meeting the Cromwell current, which brings that vital cold water and food supply right up to the Galapagos archipelago from the south and west.
And for the heat?
For the equatorial heat, they do pant, a bit like dogs, to evaporate moisture and cool down. They absolutely rely on radiating heat by holding their flippers out. And crucially, They're smart about shelter. They'll stay tucked away in cool, rocky caves or deep crevices during the hottest parts of the day to avoid that direct sun.
Okay, so we've established penguins are way more adaptable than most people think. They can handle deserts, intense heat, even living on the equator. So, boiling it down, what are the key factors? What allows these three species, Magellanic, Humboldt, Galapagos, to thrive despite the heat? This feels like the core aha moment for listeners.
Right. If we step back and look at the big picture, it really comes down to three interconnected things. First, small size.
They're smaller than Antarctic penguins.
Significantly smaller. The Galapagos penguin, for example, is maybe only a third as tall as an emperor penguin and about 10 times lighter.
And why is being small so important for dealing with heat?
It's physics, really. It's about the surface area to volume ratio. A smaller body has relatively more skin surface compared to its internal volume, its mass.
Okay.
So these smaller species can shed excess heat much more efficiently through their skin than a giant, thickly insulated emperor penguin could. Getting rid of heat is a physical challenge, and being small helps solve it.
Makes sense. Okay, factor number 2.
Cold water. This is the absolute non-negotiable.
Even in the tropics, the water's cold.
Fundamentally cold, yes. Even though they're living under a tropical sun, the water they swim and hunt in is brought north by these powerful cold currents, like the Humboldt. And crucially, this cold water is also much richer in fish and squid than truly warm tropical seas, like, say, the Caribbean.
So the water provides both food and cooling.
Exactly. It's their refrigerator and their pantry, all in one.
And the third factor?
That would be the specialized physical adaptations we talked about.
Yeah.
Things like the panting, those bare skin patches acting as radiators, the behavior of standing still with flippers out. They're all crucial for managing heat moment to moment, especially when they're out of the water.
Okay. Small size, cold water, physical adaptations. Got it.
Those are the keys to their warm weather survival.
But wait, if they have all these great adaptations, it does make you wonder, why aren't there penguins everywhere? Why haven't they colonized further north? Like, why no penguins nesting in, say, California, which has pretty cool ocean water?
Ah, yes. The northern wall, as you called it earlier. Why can't these masters of adaptation just keep moving up the globe?
Yeah. Well, first off, the food essentially runs out. That rich conveyor belt of nutrients from the Humboldt Current, it pretty much peters out or moves offshore around northern Peru, near the border with Ecuador.
It does happen to loop past the Galapagos Islands, which is lucky for the Galapagos penguins, but the coastal waters much further north just aren't consistently rich enough to support large penguin colonies year-round. The pantry runs bare.
Okay, food scarcity, that makes sense. But even if the food was there, you mentioned earlier, penguins are great swimmers, dedicated parents, but maybe not the best fighters.
Definitely not built for combat on land. And that's the second major barrier, predation pressure.
More predators further north.
Dramatically more, especially as you get closer to the true tropics and into Central and North America. It's not just about a penguin escaping a single predator. It's about establishing a safe nesting site.
Right, they need to build burrows or find crevices.
Exactly. Can you imagine a colony of penguins trying to establish burrows on a beach frequented by jaguars or cougars or crocodiles? Or dealing with aerial attacks from things like harpy eagles further inland?
Yeah, that doesn't sound good for the penguins.
They just wouldn't stand a chance. The density and variety of predators, especially terrestrial ones, makes it basically impossible to establish safe, permanent nesting sites much further north than where they are now.
Okay, so food stops, predators increase, and then there's us, humans.
Yes.
Yes.
The inescapable human factor. Even in places that might theoretically seem suitable based on water temperature, like parts of the California or Oregon coast, high human population density is a huge problem.
How so?
Well, humans bring introduced predators, things like feral cats, dogs, rats. These would absolutely decimate burrow nesting penguins, like Humboldts or Magellanics, especially the chicks and eggs.
Right.
Plus, there's increased environmental disturbance, pollution, competition for fish from human fisheries, and the accelerating impacts of climate change, causing more extreme El Niño events. And it all adds up. Even in geographically plausible areas, human activity makes long-term survival pretty much impossible for them. Their range is really tightly constrained by that need for isolation and specific cold, rich marine conditions.
So even with this incredible toolkit for survival that we've been talking about, these amazing adapters are now facing really serious threats right in their home territories.
Yeah, the story isn't just about their fascinating past adaptations. It's very much about their precarious present.
We have to shift focus a bit to the current reality in South America because unfortunately, their populations are decreasing.
They are. They face major threats like oil pollution from shipping, overfishing, which depletes their main food sources, these increasingly strong El Nino climate events that drastically warm the water and disrupt the food web.
And the introduced predators you mentioned.
And predation by introduced species, yes. It's all taking a heavy toll.
And there are some stark numbers that really highlight how urgent this is. The Humboldt penguin, for instance, is listed as vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yes. There are only about 24,000 mature individuals estimated left in the wild, which sounds like a lot, but it's a sharp decline.
And the Galapagos penguin is even worse off.
Critically endangered.
Mm-hmm.
There might only be around 2,000 adult Galapagos penguins left, maybe even fewer.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
terrifyingly small.
It is. So our priority really has to be managing these threats that, again, pollution, fishing, invasive species within their existing natural habitats to give these incredibly unique tropical species a fighting chance.
Okay, so let's recap. We started this deep dive challenging that image of the penguin frozen on the Antarctic ice.
Right, the emperor stereotype.
And we ended up with penguins living alongside cacti in deserts, penguins literally crossing the equator, all thanks to these amazing cold water currents and some really clever biological tricks.
It shows the story of the penguin is just so much wider, so much more surprising than most people realize. They really are masters of adaptation.
But they're ultimately constrained, aren't they, by geography and by that absolute non-negotiable need for cold, nutrient-packed ocean currents.
That seems to be the fundamental limit. But here's a final thought, something really interesting to consider.
Okay.
Think about Charles Darwin. His famous voyage on the Beagle, his time in the Galapagos Islands in the 1830s, which was so crucial for his theory of evolution.
Yeah.
Well, he apparently never encountered or studied the Galapagos penguin during his visit.
Really? You missed them.
Seems so. Now imagine if he had. Imagine what this incredibly tiny, desert-dwelling, equator-crossing bird, so different from any other penguin, might have contributed to his thinking about adaptation, about natural selection, about how life pushes into the most extreme environments.
Huh. That's fascinating. A little bird that could have potentially added another layer to one of the biggest ideas in science history.
Exactly. It's this missing piece of the puzzle, potentially. A creature that could have really highlighted life adapting right at the world's thermal extremes. Makes you wonder.
It really does. A truly provocative thought to end on. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the surprising and sometimes pretty warm and wonderfully weird world of tropical penguins.
And we hope you keep exploring all the strange and wonderful corners of the animal kingdom with us.